Do you know somebody with anemia? Well, you could know somebody with hypothyroidism. And when I was reading Broda Barnes' book, Hypothyroidism, The Unsuspected Illness, I came across some stuff. Anemia is characterized as having low red blood cells. Now, what causes this? Well, you could have nutritional deficiencies like low iron intake, and iron is needed to make hemoglobin, so you can see how that will lead to anemia. You could have low vitamin B12 intake, because this is required for red blood cell production and DNA synthesis. Now, you could have bleeding, is going to naturally lead to loss of red blood cells. Now, that's kind of only going to be more common acutely, like if you lose a massive amount of blood, yes, you will have low red blood cell count, lower red blood cell count, but that should correct itself if you're healthy. Now, hemolysis is when you have a premature death of the red blood cell, and basically before it gets to its mature stage, it will be killed off. This is a defect, and this could cause obviously low red blood cells. Now, you can also have impaired production, and red blood cells are made in the bone marrow. And how this ties back to Broda Barnes, it's very interesting. When I was reading Broda Barnes' book, I came across a section on anemia, and he wrote about how anemia can be caused by a failure of the bone marrow to produce red blood cells. The bone marrow in the upper part of the arms and legs, so you imagine like up here, closer to your core, the core of your body. This is where red blood cells are formed, and in the extremities, like lower away, there's no red blood cells formed. This is correlated with lower temperatures at the extremities and higher temperatures at the upper sections. Just how your hands and feet get cold when you're outside in the cold, but your core should stay kind of warmer, because you have to keep your core warm, because that's where all your organs are. And this seemed to be the same in the bone marrow. Now, what was interesting is he outlined a study in which a rat's tail that had bone marrow, which produced no red blood cells, was snipped and placed in the stomach of the rat, where there's obviously hotter temperatures. And after some time, this snipped piece of bone marrow from the tail started producing blood. If you are hypothyroid, you're going to be running at a lower temperature, because your metabolism is basically slower and lower, and it's just like driving a car that the engine never gets hot on it. Because of this, it's affecting negatively the red blood cell production in the bone marrow, because the bone marrows have to be kept at a certain temperature in order to produce the red blood cells. Hence, you get lower red blood cell count and you get your anemia. There are different causes, as I listed above. You could be not eating enough iron, low B12, excessive bleeding, or it could be that the bone marrow's production of red blood cells is not happening because the bone marrow is fundamentally at too low of a temperature chronically over time. What also goes to show is that once you do kick that thermostat up, the bone marrow does have the capacity to start producing red blood cells, which could fix the anemia rather than given more iron or whatever other treatments they use. And he also listed at the end of that section in the book that out of all of the, I'm pretty sure he said thousands of patients that he had, they very rarely, if even one, I might be able to get the excerpt, but he basically said that he never had a patient with anemia. He says here, elevation of subnormal temperature to normal by thyroid therapy may help to explain the absence of chronic anemia in thousands of patients I have seen over the past 35 years whose hypothyroidism has been corrected, including many who previously had been diagnosed as anemic. So it's just interesting, just something I came across. You've probably heard of somebody being anemic in your family. This is what somebody might do if they were diagnosed with anemia. Take your waking body temperature and see, are you running a little bit low? Maybe it's your thyroid function. That's it.